Before diving into all things tight end, this episode is brought to you by us, Regression to the Mean. Please go ahead and give us a follow if you haven't yet on Twitter at RTM Fantasy, TikTok, the same handle, and Instagram as well. We're going to be dropping threads, videos, all things NFL draft, NFL free agency, and getting you geared for another busy season of drafts this summer. Also, if you haven't yet, go ahead and follow us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on Spotify. If you haven't given us a review yet, go ahead, press pause, drop a review, leave a rating. It would mean the world to us. Also, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and do so as well. We're going to be much more on YouTube with video over the coming weeks. And yeah, if you haven't noticed yet, we're on video again. It's been a quick hiatus. Keegan's in his normal place. I'm in a moody cellar somewhere deep underground.
Coffee shop vibes there.
Yeah, I'm totally here in this room that I'm here. This is not a green screen. Okay, Keegan. Wow, that was a sneeze.
Wow.
That was
I'm
a
locked
sneeze. Oh, my. I thought you broke your neck on that one, partner. Oh, my goodness.
Had to get it all out.
Okay, Keegan, before we dive in, before we break down ADP versus actual performances. And by the way, we're not going to go through 24 tight ends here. We respect you as individuals. If you would like that,
we respect your time.
Yes, we really do. We're here to go through a lot of the awards and just have a good time with it. Talk about the ups and downs of the tight end position. Before diving into our awards, Keegan, 30,000-foot view, how did tight ends shake out in 2022?
It was awful. You either get Travis Kelce in the early rounds or maybe George Kittle, and that's about it. Everybody else who made an impact was somebody you probably didn't draft until like the last 4 rounds. Everybody in the middle sucked. And yeah, this position is awful. Honestly, if you don't get Kelce, just skip drafting a tight end and just draft every potential player you want on your roster. And then before week 1, go to the waivers and just pick somebody up who has a good matchup. That's my 30,000-foot view.
See, I'm with you a little bit there, but playing tight end roulette is so tragic.
I know, but that's why I said if you don't get Kelce or maybe somebody like the top 3, I don't know. It's tough.
Look, if you drafted George Kittle last year, again, you didn't end up in the fantasy playoffs. I'd be pretty surprised. If you somehow squeaked into the playoffs with Kittle, you probably won because that's how big of an advantage he was down the stretch. But you took Kittle in the 5th round. You took Waller in the 5th round. You took Andrews in the end of the 2nd round. These guys didn't cash at their ADP, and you did it because you thought you would have some sort of a positional edge, and you thought that at least you didn't have to play tight end carousel. Well, for Kittle, you had to do it for 3 games. Waller, you had to do it for the whole goddamn season, and you had to do it for like half the year for Mark Andrews. So not only was the tight end position an absolute clusterfuck like it normally is, only one guy stood out that was worth anything, and that was Travis Kelce.
Yep.
All the other top picks either got injured or took a while to get going, looking at you, George Kittle. Everyone else was the definition of mid, and if you got lucky and you just got to start Gerald Everett all year, and you picked him in like the 13th round, but that's awesome. But for every Gerald Everett you had a Greg Dulcich
or an
who
Irv
scored
Smith Jr.
10
or
points.
something.
Oh, God. Or you just had someone who wasn't consistent, right? They were super touchdown dependent when you entered the tight end roulette. And the whole point of drafting these studs was that you didn't have to play tight end roulette. Well, you pretty much had to do it all year unless you drafted TJ Hockenson and Travis Kelce. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that I think about it, this position was super banged up. Goedert got hurt. Ertz got hurt. And Njoku was out for a bit. George Kittle was hurt. Mark Andrews was banged up. Not only was this just a position where they're not the focal point of their offenses, they're just hurt too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I legitimately think this might be more of an unserious position than kicker.
It's close. It's just it's the way that it's structured in most leagues, right? Like where it's like you have a specific tight end position. I think as long as you move away, like in your league just goes into a like tight end, running back, wide receiver flex position, it makes it a lot better. But because we play in leagues where we have like you have to start a tight end, we have grown to hate the position, and it's become an awful problem. You have somebody like a Brandon Ayuk on your bench that you can't play because you have to play a tight end instead, and you only have a flex player available, and it's like just points wasting away because you have to start somebody like Mike Geisecki in week 4.
I've got a stat for you. Mike Geisecki. Mike Gesicki's a good call out. Oh my goodness. Just again, unserious. Jason Myers, who finishes the year as kicker 4. Right? Kicker 4. I never thought I'd say that sentence. Kicker 4. He finished the season with 9.4 fantasy points per game. On a per game basis, he outscored the likes of Gerald Everett, Taysom Hill, Dawson Knox, and Cole Kmet. All 4 of those guys you would have played in the fantasy playoffs. I shit you not. He scored the same amount of points per game as Darren Waller.
Sucks.
Darren Waller was a 5th-round draft pick. He scored the same amount of points per game as Darren Waller.
That's the tight end position in a nutshell right there, especially this year. I don't know if it was just I have my blinders on because I have recency bias, but it felt atrocious this year.
Oh, no. It felt especially atrocious. And I've got a fun game for you. Okay? How many kickers on a per-game basis outscored Kyle Pitts?
15.
18.
I thought I was bullshitting there.
Kyle Pitts would have been the kicker 19 on a points-per-game basis. Kyle Pitts was like a 3rd-round draft pick. You took him 32nd overall.
Man. Sucks.
What a clusterfuck. If you look at 2021, it was at least more evenly distributed. You had Andrews scoring 17.8 per game, Kelce scoring 16.6, Kittle scoring 14.8, Gronkowski scoring 13.7. You had 4 guys that were pretty solid, right? In 2022, Travis Kelce averaged 19.2 fantasy points per game. The tight end 4 on a points per game basis was Mark Andrews, who scored 12.7 points per game. Dallas Goedert was tight end 5, averaging 11.9 per game. If you added Kyle Pitts and Dallas Goedert, it still wouldn't have got you to Travis Kelce's points per game.
He was a huge advantage all year. If you drafted Travis Kelce, it's set it and forget, and you win that matchup advantage. And as you grow into your fantasy experience, I think stuff like that becomes a lot more important on a week-to-week basis. Like, where can I best somebody in matchup advantage? Everybody knows the same waivers. Fantasy football content is out there. Like, you need to go into your drafts with a strategy and like stack positional advantages, especially if you're in a league that has to play a tight end position.
With that being said, so again, that stat illustrates how dominant Kelce was. That stat also illustrates how sad Kyle Pitts' season was, and I think the two of them kind of encapsulate what it was to be tight ends in 2022. I think they're like the perfect sides of the spectrum. With that being said, you're on the clock. It is the first round. You have a top 5 pick. Where does Travis Kelce go in that top 5?
If he is going, 5.
Just 5?
Yeah.
Who would you take over Travis Kelce right now?
Justin Jefferson, for sure.
Okay.
Obviously. Probably Cooper Kupp. Let's see. I'm honestly taking somebody like Eckler or Christian McCaffrey over both of those guys. You could say Josh Jacobs over those guys. Tyreek. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of names. I'm not prescribing to the notion that as good as Travis Kelce is and how much of a positional advantage he is, that I would still spend a top 5 or maybe even a top 10 pick. I think where I look at Travis Kelce as a positional advantage pick and like a maybe potential play is like, sure, I'll take him at 11 or 12 and maybe even 10, like the last half of a first round. And then you have a quick wrap and you can get somebody else. But if I can only pick Travis Kelce at 5 and have to wait until my turn again, I'm not taking that risk and trying to stack my roster like that. That's just not how I'll want to build my fantasy roster.
underdog ADP, Travis Kelce is going 4th overall right now.
That's fine.
That is the price of Travis Kelce. I think there are only 4 guys in fantasy football that I would rather have over Travis Kelce. Those 4 being Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Austin Eckler. No particular order. Those are the only 4 guys that I'd rather have right now than Travis Kelce. You have the certainty of Patrick Mahomes. You have the positional advantage. You have the positional scarcity. And if this is continuing to be a part of fantasy lineups and it being in the tight end position, Travis Kelce is going to be someone that's going to skyrocket up draft boards. He doesn't really get hit either. He looks like he's getting better with age. I'm not even that worried about how old he is. This guy's set it and forget it, 17 to 20 points per game. That's it. Those are the only 4 guys I'd want over Travis Kelce.
I hear where you're coming from, but it would be tough to pass up on like one of the top wide receiver or running back talents. Even if I do want a positional advantage, I just feel like there's, for me, a better way to build my roster rather than being Travis as my cornerstone.
But again, remember, most people had Travis Kelce made deep playoff runs, if not won their titles. He was the single biggest cheat code in fantasy football. I understand your argument and where you're coming from, but I think the idea of Travis Kelce isn't that you're comparing him to the people around you. It's that you're comparing him to the other tight ends that he plays against. If he has a 6 to 7 point per advantage against the second best tight end, you're walking in with like a 6-point point per game average lead in that position. If you pair that with, say, like in the second round, you drafted A.J. Brown, right, on the wraparound this past season, right? Or you drafted Tyreek Hill. Their marginal difference between Devontae Adams or Stephon Diggs was like 2 points per game. So you're giving up 2 points there, but on average, gaining 6 to 9 points against the tight end.
Yeah,
it's a major positional advantage.
I hear that. But I mean, we're also looking at it like hindsight view. Like Travis Kelce's value is now going to be higher because people get sharper and they want to take advantage of this. But like last year, that wasn't the case. And like Tyreek Hill isn't going to be in the second round at like where he got him last year. Saquon Barkley's not going to be there at that position that he fell to last year. I think you're probably looking at like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example here. Like for a running back in the second round, you're probably looking more at like a Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon. And then there's a massive point drop off from those guys. Like if you're drafting like Joe Mixon next, that's in the middle of the second round, you're getting a huge drop off from the rest of the guys. And it's the same with the wide receivers too, you know, like,
yeah, but you're in a situation where you could take Travis Kelce and then you could take Kenneth Walker or you could take Travis Etienne. Like those are the new classes of running back that's going to be in that position. Like we're done with these boomer running backs. Like we're moving on to the new guys.
I know, but it's like, okay, you kind of expect Travis Etienne and Kenneth Walker to make a jump, right? It's like, all right, well, to put him in the elite conversation that would make him impactful like the other guys, like he needs to add an extra 100 fantasy points a year to his season, you know? Kenneth Walker needs to add 110 points to his total season output to like really bump up. I mean, it's a lot of points. It's a lot of production. I hear what you're saying, but it is really hard for me to build a roster around a tight end. Even if he's the best and he's better than the rest of them, it's difficult for me to want to put myself in a position where I'm like trying to make up ground on impact running backs and wide receivers. That's my take on it.
But you put yourself in positions all the time to make up ground on running back. You just don't want to not take a receiver here.
It's like, yeah, why would I take Travis over, you know, any one of the top?
Because he is a receiver.
Of course. But like, why would I take Travis over Cooper Kupp or Tyreek or maybe Diggs is about the same? I think Diggs is probably where you start looking at it. You're like, but like Jamar Chase, full healthy season. I don't think I'd take Kelce over Chase. You know, A.J. Brown. I'm not going to take Kelce over A.J. Brown if I'm sitting in the first round.
Brown. Come on. Kelce was way better than A.J. Brown and more consistent. He's done it for like 4 or 5 years.
He only averages a point. He averages about like 1.6 points per game more than A.J. Brown does on a per game basis, and only added like 15 to 20 points of fantasy production in that full year. And it's his first year on that team. So I don't know. I think
that was the best season of A.J. Brown's career.
I know. I'm just saying, like, I think it's like picking tooth and nail. It's kind of more about preference, how you want to build a roster. I just don't think it's smart to build around a tight end, no matter how good he is.
Interesting. A lot of people won their leagues just drafting Kelce and Mahomes. That was the big connection. If you had an elite quarterback with Kelce, you basically had like 10 to 15 point advantage going into each week. But I digress. Keegan disagrees. He's not taking a tight end, regardless if it's probably the greatest receiving tight end of all time in the first round.
Not in the top
and for
five.
me, I think there are only 4 players I'd rather have in fantasy than Travis Kelce in redraft. Those 4: Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase. No particular order. Those are the only 4. But outside of Travis Kelce, there's really nothing else to talk about for tight ends. Here's how everything shook out in terms of ADP, Keegan. No surprises here. Travis Kelce was the first tight end off the board. At tight end 2, Mark Andrews. Tight end 3, Kyle Pitts. Tight end 4, George Kittle. Tight end 5, Darren Waller. Tight end 6, Dalton Schultz. Taking a look at those 6, kind of crazy. Kind of crazy to think those were the top 6 tight ends taken after we know everything shook out. On the back end here, tight ends 7 through 12, we had Dallas Goedert, TJ Hockenson, Zach Ertz, Dawson Knox, Pat Freiermuth, Cole Kmet. Hearing those top 12 names, Keegan, how does that make you feel? What kind of stands out before we reveal kind of what the top 12 was on a point per game basis?
I mean, what a list of guys, right? Just some names in here, like Pitts, huge bummer. Darren Waller, bummer. Dalton Schultz going as the 6th tight end was really shocking to me when I looked back at these stats. Not that he had a bad year. Finishes as tight end 1 in total points on the season, but just like a random name to have in the top 12 drafted. Dawson Knox here is comical. I feel like Cole Kmet's in this position because like he was kind of like a draft darling, like late sleeper tight end that everybody was hitting on. But I mean, very few of these guys were like a massive impact to your team. A lot of them did finish eventually as a tight end 1 on the year, but underwhelming list of guys.
Pretty underwhelming. I think we saw a couple younger guys emerge. Like, oh, Pat Freiermuth was awesome, and then you realize he scored 10 points per game. And you're like, oh, okay. Dawson Knox was a disappointment. Cole Kmet shined at the end of the year. Yeah, Dalton Schultz, he played pretty well when he was healthy, especially towards the back end of the season. But, I mean, if you didn't get Kittle, Kelce, or Hockenson, Goedert was fine too. But, oh, geez, it was brutal. And here's how everything shook out for tight ends on a point per game basis. So at 1, we had Travis Kelce with 19.2 fantasy points per game. At number 2, TJ Hockenson with 13.3. Almost a full touchdown advantage for Kelce over Hockenson. George Kittle finishes as tight end 3 with 13 points per game. Mark Andrews, tight end 4 at 12.7. Dallas Goedert, tight end 5. Zach Ertz, tight end 6. Rest easy. Not rest easy, but get well soon.
Yeah, I was like, dang, did he die?
Yeah, no, get well soon, our king, Zach Ertz. Evan Engram finishes as tight end 7. Pat Freiermuth, tight end 8. Darren Waller, tight end 9. David Njoku, tight end 10. Dalton Schultz, tight end 11. And Tyler Higbee at tight end 12. Just missing the cut. Taysom Hill with 9.5 fantasy points, finishing at tight end 13 in a point per game basis. If you actually go by standard scoring, Keegan, standard scoring in terms of tight ends, Taysom Hill finishes as tight end 2.
Number 2.
Standard scoring. Points per game.
That ridiculous.
Is atrocious. So before going through some of our risers that you're going to share with us in terms of guys that weren't drafted in the top 12 and really shown throughout the season, just looking at this discrepancy, obviously injuries played a really big deal in Mark Andrews' season, Zach Ertz' season, Dalton Schultz' season, Dallas Goedert, like almost all these guys got hurt. What kind of stands out when you see the top 12 production versus ADP?
I mean, Darren Waller's drop off, like what happened there between him, the team, giving up on the team? Like that's a surefire tight end talent who just like didn't live up to the draft capital that you really had to heavily invest in, which is a huge bummer. But it's like we said at the beginning, like draft one of the top guys. And if you don't, just wait. I mean, think about somebody like Evan Engram, who's like waiver wire hero and finishes as, you know, basically the 5th tight end in scoring, and he's top 10 in a points per game basis. That somebody can just kind of like find gold in at the end of the season. I thought
who came on strong at the end of the season too. He was an asset in the fantasy playoffs.
Really good, like an asset in real football for the Jaguars. Really good. There's some really like funny, consistent guys. Like you name dropped this earlier, but Gerald Everett, like that's somebody I just rode all season and in a one league and was completely fine with. Like get you almost 10 points a game, nothing crazy, but like kind of was fine. But I don't know. It's really hard to like pick out from these guys. I'm like laughing at the fact that Irv Smith Jr. was somebody drafted as like one of the top 24 tight ends, and just like who is Irv Smith Jr. like after this year, right? It's a bummer.
He's just made of glass. I mean, he's always hurt, unfortunately.
And there's just like some interesting people who I do think are talented on this list that just like didn't show out. I mean, Mike Geisecki is like one who is like actually a talented pass catcher, but I just like think he hates his team and his team hates him. There's a lot of hype guys.
Don't use tight ends. They don't use we talked about that all year. It was just Waddle and Tyreek. That was the offense. Like, sorry, man.
Yeah.
They take up like 60% of the targets.
And then there's that asshole Taysom Hill who pops up as like a top scoring tight end that only finishes the year with 76 receiving yards and yet somehow finishes with 551 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. So, yeah, that's super ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, it's just a shit show of a list when you look at it, especially on a points per game basis. I think the drop off from Travis Kelce down to somebody like Evan Engram, who you were really happy to have on your team at the end of the year, is insane. I mean, he's averaging 9 extra points a game than Evan Engram, who was a great fantasy tight end this year.
Even if you take it from like a stretch from week 12 to week 17, like I guess guys outscored Kelce on a per game basis. Kelce kind of did fade down the stretch. TJ Hockenson was very solid once he got traded to the Vikings.
Yeah, he was really good.
Hockenson was the clear tight end 2. Well, yeah, he was the clear tight end 2 with Kittle being the clear tight end 3. But for both of them to emerge, it took Hockenson getting traded to the Vikings and the Vikings basically replacing Adam Thielen with TJ Hockenson mid-season. And 2, it took the injury to Deebo Samuel and the transition to Brock Purdy for George Kittle to catch 11 touchdowns. Like, that wasn't happening with Deebo playing and with Jimmy for some reason. And then all of a sudden Purdy comes in and Kittle's like a force.
Got to go to your old reliable. I feel like young quarterbacks love like their sturdy tight ends who are just like always there. So, but yeah, like you said, tons of random things have to happen and or not happen for things to go right for these people. And honestly, a huge bummer of a tight end like situation with Zach Ertz. You know, had he not got injured, he was on his way to being a top 5 tight end. He's like still right on the outside of it on points per game basis, but he was having a really solid year in Arizona. But he's a bit older now in age. I'm wondering if we'll see some Trey McBride action a little bit next year. Like that'll be a tight end that I think people will probably be on the lookout for, like trying to spot a young guy that might emerge. That's a good situation there for him. But yeah, the rest of this list is like, you know, David Njoku's cool for a couple weeks at a time, but
He was pretty good. And I think what's interesting is we're like bemoaning this position. We're really shitting on the position, like quite frankly, like taking a big, giant, steaming shit all over it. But the NFL draft is loaded with some really talented tight end prospects that a lot of people are talking about. 3 tight ends have a first-round grade. We had some promising rookies pop up last year. And remember, usually tight ends get way better from year 2 to year 3. So we could be in a position where the old guys are out, the new guys are in, and we have more of a middle class of tight end. So we might have a tight end renaissance, but this season is a low point. It was substantially better the year before with Kelce, Kittle, and Andrews all being solid. This season is just a sorry season, man. That is so sad that Kelce finishes a touchdown ahead of TJ Hockenson. It is crazy.
It's brutal.
And we haven't even spoken about Kyle Pitts. We haven't even said his name. Kyle Pitts was a top 35 selection.
It's not his fault, you know? I don't think it's his fault. I just can't.
All right, well, we're saving it. All right, we're saving it for the awards. Are you ready to give out some awards, or you want to talk about a couple honorable mentions that we had here? I think we had.
The only thing I'll say is like about the tight end position in fantasy, it's like look, tight end roulette might suck, but like you can get Tyler Gronklin for a couple weeks at a time and have a little
stop
fun.
it.
You can look for, like someone like Cameron Brate goes down and then Cade Otton becomes playable, like as a young kid. You got to watch for emerging people, Jawan Johnsons of the world. And then there's like Chig Okonkwo, who is like obviously a very talented pass catcher, and he's amazing with the ball. He's kind of like a just thicker, heavier set wide receiver playing the tight end position, but he doesn't run block, and he's on like a run heavy team. So it's like there's talent at the tight end position. I don't want to be too mean to it. Like there's a lot of guys on this list that I do believe are talented, but it's just like how impactful can tight end in fantasy really be outside of Travis Kelce at this point? Who knows?
All right, Keegan, you ready to give out some awards?
Let's do it.
Okay. We invited a studio audience. They declined. They declined to show up for tight ends. It's a position to people. Okay, so no studio audience, but we might, just like Lumen Field with the Seattle Seahawks, we might pipe in some noise to convince people that our fans are actually making noise. Same with SoFi Stadium. They like to do that too because they are not a real NFL franchise with real fans. Okay, I can't seem to find our studio audience.
I'm not seeing them out there.
Oh, there. Oh, here we go. Here they are. Okay, let's get a drum roll, everybody. Let's get it. It's now loading. There we go. All right, Keegan, it is time to give out awards for part 4 of the inaugural, don't you dare forget, inaugural RTM End of Season Fantasy Awards. Wow, no wonder anyone will sponsor it. That is a mouthful. Okay, Keegan, starting things off, who is your MVP at tight end?
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce. Okay, I think we can move on to
Travis Kelce, yeah.
This is just a Kelce episode. Okay, Keegan, who is the tight end that we'd let date our hypothetical daughter? Who do you have?
I don't really know. Tight ends are all kind of seem like dirt bags. Like I have George Kittle down, but he also looks disgusting. So I don't know. Maybe like
Dalton Schultz?
Yeah.
Maybe Schultze?
No, I don't know. To be honest, I'm thinking like a Cade Otton, just like unassuming, like young guy, you know?
Stop
it. Seems like a nice lad. I don't know.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop making Cade Otton a thing.
Cade Otton is a thing.
Cade
Otton is a thing.
I mean, the level of dirtbaggery, like Tyler Higbee, dirtbag. Kittle loves, like, I think he just wants to be a dirtbag, which is hilarious. Well, like, everyone's got mullets and crazy haircuts. Didn't Njoku, like, have a mullet, too? I'm going to say that George Kittle is the tight end. Go Niners, baby.
Yeah,
that face mask catch. Come on.
You definitely can't have Travis Kelce in here. He looks like the type of dude to ask her to pick up the bill.
No, she'd probably want to pay for Kelce. I mean, Kelce's too in demand here. This is out of control. But Kittle seems like a great dude. He's got his sponsorship with Zenni, which is like a fourth tier glasses company. Good for Kittle. He's got some extra streams of revenue. I know that I'd be excited to watch some WWE with George Kittle because that's how he gets down. But George Kittle and Cade Otton, congratulations. You are the players that we let date our hypothetical daughters.
Nice.
And also, clap it out for Travis Kelce. Yes. Keegan and I actually now for the next 30 minutes are going to fight more about Travis Kelce in the first round. Okay. Keegan, who is the $5 Bonafide Big Box Award for the best draft value?
TJ Hockenson.
Ooh.
It's, I think after you get traded to Minnesota and kind of opened up his ability a bit, but I think even where you drafted him before, even if he finished the season in Detroit, it's still the best value, like compared to performance and how they ended up on the season for tight end. The easy pick here is Kelce, but I try to give the audience a different answer at least. But TJ Hockenson had a pretty awesome season for tight end compared to where he was drafted. So I have to go with that.
Okay. So you are going with TJ Hockenson. That makes sense. It was kind of a tale of two halves for Hockenson. We'll get into it a little bit later, but kind of underused when he was a Detroit Lion. Kind of the odd man out. He had a massive, I think like close to 40-point game against the Seahawks. Kind of disappears, gets traded to the Vikings, and all of a sudden is like a walking 8 for 70 each week.
Yeah.
Very bankable production. You were drafting Hockenson, what?
He's the 8th tight end ADP,
tight
so
end.
it's like, where does that even fall on the board?
7th and 8th. I think people were taking Hockenson like 7th, 8th round. Yeah, I think he definitely delivers on that, considering that he was pretty damn consistent from week 9 on when he got traded. So TJ Hockenson makes a ton of sense. Even though he was the first tight end off the board, you got a discount on Travis Kelce in 2021. Was still awesome, averaged 16 points per game, but was pretty down from over his previous 2 years. So there was concerns about no Tyreek, maybe this offense taking a hit, maybe, Travis Kelce's another year older. Nope. Travis Kelce was an absolute animal. I think that he could have easily been a top 10, top 8 pick. You were getting him at kind of the middle of the second round, end of the second round. Like, what an absolute steal in terms of draft value. Like you even said, he outscored somebody like Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
Like, that's pretty insane. So I'm going with Travis Kelce. He scored 300 fantasy points in 2022. A 300-point scorer is typically going in the first 6 to 10 picks. You got him late second round. Travis Kelce, even though he's tight end 1, I think was the best value. He is the bona fide big box award for tight ends.
I agree.
So TJ Hockenson, Travis Kelce, come on down. Come on down. Come on down. Gonna be a lot of award winners, 2-time award winners. Okay, so we're gonna go through this quickly. The Whopper tight end award for the guy that no one will stop talking about. Who do you have winning that award?
Kyle Pitts.
Why is that, Keegan?
I don't know. I don't even
that?
know if there's ever been a tight end talked about as much outside of Gronkowski as Kyle Pitts has been talked about. I mean, maybe I don't even want to say anything. I mean, I'm going to talk about him for like the foreseeable future until he's not on my dynasty roster anymore. I've been talking about him for 2 years already, nonstop. So I'm gearing up for year 3.
So we'll do a rewind here. Why was Kyle Pitts so talked about? Well, number one, he was the greatest tight end prospect of all time, according to several people that are experts at following the NFL draft. He was drafted number 4 overall, which I think is the highest draft capital ever for a tight end. He comes out and puts up over 1,000 yards with noodle arm Matt Ryan. It wasn't perfect, but basically he's 20 to 21 years old, playing in the NFL, learning how to play the position, and he has a pretty damn good season. Flash forward to year 2. We think he's just going to get better. It's the year 2 leap. It's Kyle Pitts. He's going to explode on the scene. Nonstop chatter about Kyle Pitts. Because you know why people draft Kyle Pitts? Because it's fun. It is fun to have this cyborg wide receiver hybrid tight end on your team.
He's a freak of an athlete.
Freak of an athlete. And he comes out here and would finish the year as the kicker number 19. Kicker number 19. So you have excitement, intrigue, high draft capital, and that leads to basically the whopper equivalent of an NFL player. Nonstop chatter about Kyle Pitts leading up to the draft, nonstop chatter about Kyle Pitts not delivering on his ADP before his season was sadly ended.
Straight to the pit of despair, as some might say.
Now, Kyle Pitts, congratulations. You are the whopper tight end for the guy that no one will stop fucking talking about. Kyle Pitts, congratulations. You did it here. Okay, Keegan. The next award I have here is the Somebody Balk Me Award for the tight end that I will not be able to stop talking about in 2023. Who do you have?
Kyle Pitts. I have Kyle Pitts for this award.
I've got Kyle Pitts too.
Yep.
I've got Kyle Pitts for this award.
No, I mean, like I said, I'm gearing up already. I'm looking at my dynasty roster. I'm realizing that I'm going to be year 3 of Kyle Pitts or real year 3 of Kyle Pitts ownership, and I'm excited. They're probably going to have a new quarterback. Maybe it's Desmond Ridder that plays, but all I know is it won't be Marcus Mariota, and they're going to get him the goddamn ball. They have to.
Here's some numbers why I think I'm very excited about Kyle Pitts. Well, one, outside of a clear and obvious quarterback upgrade, because Marcus Mariota had a legitimate dead arm. We joke about noodle arm all the time. noodle arm all the time, but Marcus Mariota legitimately had nerve damage in his throwing arm. They brought him in to run like a wishbone style offense where they just run the shit out of the ball because that's how they were set up to win. And it led to Kyle Pitts running in an offense with low passing volume with a quarterback that was highly inaccurate, that he had no chemistry with. You pair that with the fact that he's a year 2 tight end, still young, and usually year 3, year 4 is really where we see that leap. Ideally, we'd love to see it in year 2. We saw it in year 2 with Kittle. We would have loved to see it with Pitts, but maybe that was just delayed because of the issues that he had with Marcus Mariota. If you look at the underlying statistics on Kyle Pitts, he had a 34.1 air yards share, which was number 1. So out of all the total accumulated air yards, so out of all the possible yards that could have been gained through passing the ball, he had a 34% share of it, which was number 1 amongst all tight ends, which is really good. It means he had crazy good volume. If you take a look at his yards per target depth, which was 13, it means he was getting targeted down the field. Like, this is crazy numbers for a tight end. That was number 1. He had a 26.6% target share, Keegan. That is absurd. That is number 2 on the season. His targets per route run was number 3 of all tight ends. And he had 2.07 yards per route run, which was number 5. Man, he was getting peppered with targets. But the only problem was it was low volume and low efficiency. So even if those numbers go down, Keegan, hopefully the efficiency goes up. Hopefully the volume goes up. And we're talking about Kyle Pitts having his breakout season. That's the hope here. And somebody mock me because I'm so in. Yeah. I'm back in.
You guys could tell as Shaun just went in on that rant. Yeah, we're definitely Kyle Pitts guys here. That's for sure.
Okay. We are so back. Okay, Kyle, come on down. Second award here. Second award, Kyle.
Won't be the last, Kyle.
Congratulations. Okay, the next award that I have here is the Kyle Pitts Award presented by FTX for the biggest fraud / bust. You're never going to guess who I have here, Keegan. Darren Waller. I've got Darren Waller here. Darren Waller's issue wasn't the fact that he was having bad quarterback play. It wasn't the fact that he was a year 2 tight end struggling to make his mark. Darren Waller's issue was he didn't really want to play football this year. That, or he just had a terrible hamstring injury. But a lot of people alluded to the fact there were people in the Vegas locker room who weren't here for the team. And we're like, you're starting to look here like, what? Like, they could come back from injury sooner. Like, well, okay, I think Hunter Renfro's like pretty hurt. What's up with Darren Waller and his hamstring injury? Like, what are they talking about here? So I don't know. Waller did score 3 more points per game than Kyle Pitts on a per game average, so he probably was better when you had him in your lineup. You took him at less in like the 5th round, but Kyle was trying. All right, he was out there giving it his all. And even though the award is named after him, rightfully so, I think Waller was pretty deserving of the biggest bust. So what do you think about that? Are you still leaning Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, Darren Waller's season was, I think he just gave up. I don't know what it was. Maybe he didn't like Derek Carr. I don't know if he liked him as a leader, but I feel like he just and obviously I don't want to speculate about his injury, but I feel like he truly just wasn't in the lineup because he was choosing not to be. I think that's a good pick for biggest bust. I have Kyle Pitts, of course, as my award winner for this. Just like the hype, the draft capital, it stung me extra, and I had him on like 3 different rosters. I traded for Kyle Pitts in a redraft this year. I wanted more of Kyle Pitts, only to get let down by him. So
it's the classic double down. It was, and we're not talking KFC. God. We've all been there.
Yeah, so
we've all been there.
Now that the bit is over and everybody in wide receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs have received a Kyle Pitts Biggest Bust Award presented by FTX, I am proud to finally present this award to Kyle Pitts himself.
Well done, Kyle. We're gonna clap it out because you know what? At the end of the day, Kyle. At the end of the day, you let us down. You broke our hearts. You gave us hope, though, and you gave us so much content. And you will be back for another round, Kyle. We appreciate you. We're rooting for you. We're in your corner. The next award that I have here is the My Coach Hates Me and I Don't Know Why award. Who do you have winning the My coach hates me, and I don't know why award.
Mike Geisecki. They did not
Why does his
like
coach
him.
hate him?
I don't
Why
know.
does everyone hate
what
Geisecki?
I feel like he's hated by a lot of people. He feels like a polarizing tight end. But when he has good games and he has the opportunity to catch the ball, I'm like, dude, this guy's a pretty good tight end. Like, he passes my eye test, you know? I'm like, athletic. And then I'm like, what's his deal? I don't really know. I can't explain it. It feels like there's like a disdain for Mike Geisecki in Miami. They don't scheme him up. They didn't really need to this year with Waddle and Hill. But it's just been a story of inconsistencies for him. I just feel like he needs a new environment.
Well, he's not really a tight end, right?
He's more like a lead or like a thicker wide receiver for sure. And he's not a very good run blocker, so I can see why maybe they don't like him. But he's a really good athlete. If he's good, got good hands.
You just think that he'd get involved more. But yeah, he doesn't really seem like someone who would break for a long touchdown. But he seems like a guy you'd want to get the ball in the red zone. Remember that high point touchdown that Tua throw in his massive
That's what I'm saying. Like,
game
he's definitely a good red zone target. Like, I don't know. What do I know? That's why I don't coach.
That's why you don't.
Yeah.
That is the reason. Because you don't understand Geisecki's impact. That's why you're not coaching. The guy that I have for the My Coach Hates Me and I Don't Know Why award is Albert O. Because at the end of the season, he was asked what happened last year, and he's like, I really couldn't tell you why. I could not tell you why Nathaniel Hackett hated Albert O. Couldn't tell you.
Man.
And I remember they brought in that interim head coach at the end of the year, and they're like, I don't know why this Albert O guy, why he wasn't playing. Like, he's pretty good. He's a pretty good player. And
He is pretty good.
If you look at his, Alberto had like 2 really nice games after Nat Hackett was kicked to the curb. So I don't know what was that about, but he was a whopper contender because nonstop fucking chatter.
Oh my God. He was up there
God.
as like one of the most like talked about tight ends for like, this is a guy you should be prioritizing, sleeper pick and emerging tight end, blah, blah. And then just Nathaniel Hackett came in and Russell Wilson came in and screwed that all up. So
I don't know what happened there. I really don't. But Alberto and Mike Geisecki, congratulations on winning the My Coach Hates Me and I Don't Know Why award.
Nice.
Okay. Well done, gentlemen. Our next award here, very prestigious award. It gets given out every single year. Whoever wins it is very well respected. It is the I am not a tight end, but fantasy apps continue to insist that I am one award. Who do you have as the I'm not a tight end, but fantasy apps continuously insist that I am one award? Who do you have winning that one, Keegan?
That one's going to go to Taysom Hill. He should not be allowed to be on fantasy roster. I have a stand that I would like to make here and like a take. Like, Taysom Hill should not be fantasy eligible football player.
I think it's chaos. It's pure chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. Taysom is an agent of chaos. I started Taysom Hill in a fantasy championship. It was fucking awesome. It was great.
Fuck that, dude. I just don't even want it to be an option. I don't want it to tempt people.
Okay. I know you're a thrill seeker. Would you rather huff some glue or start Taysom Hill in fantasy?
Is it Elmer's?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
People that sniff paint love Taysom Hill in their starting lineups. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah. I just don't want any part of it.
I don't either. We had a sponsor for this award brought to you by BYU. So
brought to you by Sean Payton as well.
Sean Payton. Sean Payton paid a ton to get this award in place. And Taysom Hill, future Bronco, congratulations for winning the I'm not a tight end, but fantasy apps continuously insist that I am one award. Congratulations, Taysom. That is his 5th year winning that one. He is a seasoned vet at taking that home. The next award that I have here, Keegan, is for the last time, Jim, this is going to be huge, Jim, award for the best performance that makes you feel like you are equally shitting your pants and orgasming at the same time. Keegan, who do you have winning that award? That one.
The real-life Viking himself, TJ Hockenson, week 16, 13 receptions on 16 targets, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the semifinals of the fantasy playoffs, just paying huge dividends to all TJ Hockenson owners out there, and delivers at, 36-point game in PPR
against the Giants.
Yeah. I mean, good for Hawk. Also, just like a huge, I mean, he was tight end 1 on the week. It's semifinals, your fantasy playoffs. Like, he absolutely crushed just about anybody in the tight end position you could have played against. It's just a perfect time for a great game from TJ Hockenson.
Dude, that wasn't even his best point per game. He had a 39.
Yeah, his best game was against Seattle in week 4.
Yeah, when he was still a Lion. My award for best tight end performance isn't actually even Kelce's highest performing output, which was a 35-point bomb against the Chargers. I'm going for that 4-touchdown masterpiece that he had against the Raiders in that huge comeback win for the Chiefs. Kelce had 7 catches for 25 yards and 4 touchdowns. That is just
the most
absurd.
Travis Kelce Chiefs stat line.
That is the definition of, oh, Jim, this is going to be huge, Jim. Wow, that's the last time I have ripped my Tony Romo for a while. Congratulations, Kelce. I think it's your 5th award. Hockenson, I think that's your 3rd award as well.
Yeah, I'm sensing a trend.
Yes. The next award here that I have is the Sarah McLachlan. I still can't get this one out. The Sarah McLachlan in the Arms of an Angel award for the tight end who got hurt too early in the season. I have Zach Ertz for this one.
I also have Zach Ertz. Honestly, he was having a great season again. He finished the season really strong with the Cardinals in 2021 and 2022. He was definitely somebody I was interested in having on my roster, and he was really good. He was like a great week-to-week wide receiver, and that injury really sucked, because that knocks off one of the few consistent guys at tight end that you can count on kind of like weekly, and that was a bummer.
Dude, he was really good. He'd get like 6 targets a game.
Oh, yeah, really involved in their
12
offense.
Points.
Yeah, almost 12 points a game in fantasy. I mean,
you didn't have to play the carousel. You got him in the 10th round. It was like literally, he was doing what Dallas Goedert was doing, right? Like,
yeah, no, they're like almost comparable players.
But again, Goedert way better, right? Like way more athletic.
That's the problem with Ertz now.
Ton of volume.
And I think it's really important that he gets this award too, because we could be seeing the last of Zach Ertz days pretty soon here. And he's kind of been like a focal point of the tight end position for a lot of our football watching careers. And I think after that injury, and like, he's really slowed down. He's not yards after the catch guy anymore. He's like get tackled.
Zach.
Yeah, no yak Zach. So, I mean, just kind of an ode to the end of his season. And I mean, he's got a young, good rookie behind him, emerging, ready to take his job. Dallas Goedert was a very similar position in the Eagles. That's why they're comfortable getting rid of him, because the next man up was exactly who they needed.
Yeah, he gets hurt week 11. Before that, he had a string of games where his worst performance was like 6 points. Yeah, Zach, in the arms of an angel. Get well, sir. I love that Keegan said, shout out Zach. This is like a career achievement award for Zach. The Sarah McLachlan Arms of the Angel award. That's Keegan's
just making sure, we understand
it's on his Pro Football Reference page. I'm not gonna clap it out for Zach. Get well, Zach. Hopefully we get to see you play a little bit more football before it's all said and done. Okay, Keegan, this is the Always Was award for the tight end that's just always been good, and you just figured out he was this year. The one I am going with is Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is a mini George Kittle, and no one's talking about it. This guy's awesome. I don't know if he's the blocker that George Kittle is, but in terms of like yak over the middle, break a tackle, score a touchdown, Dallas Goedert is really legit. If you look at his like yards per route run, which is a really good statistic that shows how many yards you got with how many routes you ran, George Kittle has 1.8, which is fourth for tight ends. Dallas Goedert, 1.79. That's pretty damn good, dude. If you look at overall yak numbers, George Kittle, 444. Dallas Goedert, 484. Really good numbers for Goedert. I think he's kind of coming into his own as one of the best tight ends in the league. And I always knew he was good, but, no Ertz, really dynamic offense. He really got to shine. So Dallas Goedert is my always was award winner for the tight end. It's always been this good.
Yeah, I put Dallas Goedert as well, too. There was flashes of him when him and Ertz were on the team together, and I kind of hinted at this when I was talking about Ertz, but they were comfortable letting Ertz go to a different team because they knew Dallas Goedert had always kind of been good, but now we get to see it on full display, so I think now everybody's kind of coming to it. Another person for this award, TJ Hockenson, always kind of has been good and talented, just like didn't love the situation for him in Detroit, but I think Dallas Goedert's my award winner for this.
Another guy is like George Kittle, who's so good. He's been so good for so long, but like George Kittle gets plenty of national airtime. So I think we're good. Dallas Goedert, congratulations. The always was award. That probably would have been better for Zach Ertz, honestly. But in terms of lifetime achievement, than the Sarah McLachlan in the Arms of an Angel award. Our next award here that we have is the New Phone Who Dis Award for the best performance on a new team. I've got TJ Hockenson. We've already stated it. TJ Hockenson was averaging close to like 10, 11 points per game when he was on the Lions. Goes to the Vikings, averages like 14 points a game. Now he's legitimately like tight end too. So shout out TJ Hockenson, the winner of the New Phone Who Dis Award. Who do you got, Keegan?
I've got Evan Engram, a guy who was highly touted coming out of college as one of those freak tight end prospects, like almost prior to Kyle Pitts, having that same athletic profile, and just died. His career died for a little bit, and it got resurrected by Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars, man. I mean, his late season emergence was honestly insane. And he was huge for you in the playoffs, in the fantasy playoffs. He was huge down the stretch. He was a great waiver wire pickup for a lot of people. Fifth best tight end in points scored and up there in the top 10 in points per game. He just needed a new situation. In year 6, it's the year we finally saw what Evan Engram was actually capable of that we all knew.
At age 28, Evan Engram finally fulfills on his promise. All it took was 6 years, 5 head coaches, 3 QBs. This is a Kyle Pitts tweet. We're talking about Pitts, okay? Come on, let's have a little patience. Evan Engram, TJ Hockenson, new phone. Who dis? Congratulations.
And I think that does it, Shaun.
No, we have one more award.
Oh my gosh, we have another one?
We have one more award. It's prestigious because as if you are a fantasy football fiend, you are always looking for the year 2 tight end. You're always trying to hit on year 2. Now it might be year 3 with Kyle Pitts, right? But the year 2 tight end is usually where guys play a lot better because rookie tight ends just aren't really used. So this is the rookie tight end that might actually be good in 2023. So sophomore tight end, I guess. Keegan, I think we both had the same person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've talked a lot about Trey McBride, but it's Chig, right?
Chig Okonkwo is the one that I'm most excited about. I just want to go on record. Like you and I were talking about this pretty early. I mean, dude, I was
listening to his early stuff. Dude, you were on his mixtape stuff.
I remember like texting our friends like, "Hey, like I've got like a sleeper tight end for you to like just get on." And like it was like way too early just because I saw like a couple like yards after catch plays by Chig in a game that like he only had 1 or 2 catches. I'm like, you guys got to get on this, dude. And what do you know? Turns out he's actually a freak of nature with the ball in his hands. They just got to get it to him.
You bought his CDs in front of 7-Eleven?
Like yeah. When he was selling them, I bought his game when he was selling it out the trunk. And next year he's going to be a Best Buy. So
we talk a little bit about yards per route run as a stat, right? Just for context, Chig Okonkwo, 2.61 yards per route run. Absurd. Like that is like Justin Jefferson levels of yards per route run. That's more yards per route run than Jamar Chase. It is absurd. Now, again, limited volume. I don't think he knows how to block. They want to run the ball, so who knows? But if Chig Okonkwo can get put in that Jonnu Smith role, I think he's better than Jonnu Smith. And I'm really excited to see Chig Okonkwo. Honorable mention, Dalton Kincaid. Doesn't even play in the NFL yet.
Wow.
Go watch his Utah tape. That guy is so fucking good. Dalton Kincaid, you heard it here, folks, on the Regression.
Honorable mention, Jeremy Ruckert next year when he gets involved with the Jets offense. Just because I didn't say anything about the Jets this episode, I had a sweet one in.
All you have to do is pick the tight end that's getting a lot of preseason buzz and then fade them because Nathaniel Hackett's going to hate him. So that's how you pick. Oh, you just remembered Nathaniel Hackett's your offensive coordinator. So that was fun.
I have to think about it every day. So,
all right, Keegan. Somehow, some way, we promised a short episode, and it's still probably gonna be way too long. But that's how we do it.
That's how we do it here.
If you are here listening still, you probably already subscribe. You probably already follow us. We appreciate you. Now, please go touch some grass, hug a loved one. We will be back later in the week. We're gonna be starting our NFL draft prep. Keegan and I are real experts here. Okay, we're watching.
Exciting.
Tape. We are streaming tape, ladies and gentlemen. We're not going to go too deep on it, but we're going to give our thoughts on quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. You make Regression to the Mean possible. And until next time.